say is this event is going to be extremely advantageous for you to go to. So I'd highly recommend you get signed up sooner than later. It is about 2 weeks away, 15 days, I think, to be precise. And if you wanted a room, but you didn't, get a chance to book a room. So if I say register today, right here, and I try to book a room, it won't allow me to because the room block is closed. Well, I still have a master list together. So if you want the price of $229, then you can ask me and then you can pay when you get there. So perfectly fine. I would say I'd highly recommend stay on site versus off site because we start at 8 a.m. sharp. And it's just going to be a day of sharing opportunity, sharing ideas, kind of what we talk about here. The whole idea of these trainings is to help you guys grow. And so from this standpoint, this is not a recruiting meeting. I have people coming from New York Life. I have people coming from Experior. I have people coming from HGI, FFL, Valor. So the idea is that it's an unbiased location to learn more about the industry to help you do good for your clients. Because ultimately our goal is to do right by our clients, and then our clients will do right by us, leading to referrals and opportunity. So I created this conference not for the sake of Valor and recruiting people in. Now, if I have a resource or a value proposition that is available for you, and this is the first time you want to operate with someone like myself, someone experienced in the market with certain things, there's things called splits. You can do app splits and things like that. You just have to understand not to be biased or think so, closed on the opportunity. So the idea with the great collaboration is we collaborate with stuff in the industry to help us improve our game and ultimately grow our business. And that's how we partner and grow together. So when you think about this, if you haven't done it yet, tgcconference.com. Again, it's about 15 days away in Dallas. There will be some live streams, but it will not be fully streamed for the whole day, just clips and stuff like that. So really the best advantage is you getting there and actually seeing it live. So I'd love to see you guys there. And yeah, so now we'll kind of dive in. And this is more stuff that I like to do. It's more of a whiteboard presentation on how to really set up and design an appropriate presentation. Because you could have a great thing in your mind, you could have a great story when it comes to building out what you're going to say to your client, but if it's not succinct, if it doesn't have a right rhythm, and it doesn't follow a particular pattern followed by an action step, then you're going to lose you're going to lose right off the bat. So what we do from this standpoint is how do you deliver an appropriate presentation? And that's what I'm going to show you a format on how you can set something up pretty quickly in the span of maybe 5 or 10 minutes. You can have a presentation set up, or at least a skeleton to work with. And it usually starts with a beginning. So you'll have a box up here at the top, followed by your mission statement or your value statement. And please forgive me for the way that I'm going to draw these. I'm literally drawing straight on the board because I don't want to look down and really blind you with the old noggin. But I'm going to show you the skeleton of the format first. And then from there, we'll kind of dive into it. Okay, so here's a skeleton of how you want to set up the presentation. There's going to be more as you go down. And then this will ultimately lead back to the end in mind. Okay, so we'll say, what the hell is all this, Phil? The idea behind it, once again, is to start with a formulated approach on how you're going to position your sale. And what is the one thing that we always start with? We always want to start with the end in mind. So what is that action step you want your client to take? Okay. Is it buy your product? Is it understand the resources that you have available? Is it something along those lines? Or if I'm talking to agents, think of 3 clients. Okay. All the time, you'll see me talk about action steps of so and so. Now, this makes sense. You probably thought of probably 3 clients. I want you to write down what is the action that you want your client to take after your presentation is done. Most people are going to, fall around here. But how do you get there? The next step is what's in it for me or with them. Okay. And the with them has to have 2 what's in it's, one for producer and 1 for client. Okay. That's from the wholesaling side. What I tell people is, well, for you as a producer, you're going to grow revenue for your practice. You're going to grow, assets under management. You're going to share knowledge. But from you speaking to a client, what is the benefit for them to have this conversation? Okay. And then after the benefit, what is the action step? So once again, you're figuring out how to get them to find value in what you're saying. And ultimately, from that value, they're going to take action. Okay. So the next step is we're going to go all the way up, not to the top, but we're actually going to go here, which is 3 bullet points on what you want to talk about. So bullet point number 1, bullet point number 2, bullet point number 3, and then you want to think about some supporting arguments that would go here for bullet point number 1, number 2, number 3, and then 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to repeat. Probably the best of the 3 you'd want to repeat. So say you star the best one and you repeat. And then, so Mr. Client, the reason why I think this is good for you is X, Y, and Z. I think what you should do is you should buy this thing. So whatever it may be. So you've created the format of what you want to talk about, the end in mind. You created the subjects or the things along this line. And so now you have to figure out I think it's 6 at this point, a story or facts. Then last but not least, you want your title or, like your mission statement. Okay. So questions anyone has, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'm looking up because my other monitor has a Q&A. Why would we go this route? What's the benefit of doing this? If you start out at number 1 with your stories and facts, you might start modifying these halfway through the presentation. So if you think with the end in mind, knowing exactly where you want them to go, you start to tailor it appropriately. Then you could figure out your story or your facts when it comes to this. And so I'll give you a good example. And this is exactly what I did to build out my presentations for the tax diversification conversation. So cheap shameless plug, but if you go back to my YouTube channel at Valor Financial, you can look at it. We start out with substantiation of facts and data about the US, about how people, 60+% of people are more worried about retirement than they are death. People are going to have long-term care concerns or issues. So if I could show you a way that could give you X, Y, and Z, would you be interested? These facts, you do You talk about tax now, tax later, tax never. You talk about going through the points and then you show them an example, maybe what's in it for them, getting that tax-free income, and then leads to what do you think you could put into a policy like this? So if you even go back and look at an old one, that's kind of the structure. Now, let's take it into a different world. If someone wants to put something in the Q&A as a topic, you want to see if maybe I can build something right now. If not, then I've got something ready to line up. But I just want to see, first off, if people are listening. Second off, if there's anything that anyone wants to see that we could kind of do off the cuff. Got nothing. Okay. So we'll go with old Phil and what he's got in mind. So what I would say is one of my Q3 initiatives is long-term care or chronic illness. Here we go, chronic illness. Okay. And why people need to buy it. So we go to the WIFM. Clients have specific amount of money, or they have a fear or concern of running out of their money due to long-term care. So what's in it for them? They protect assets and are covered against old age. Okay. So when you think about that, no, we want to get them to their assets protected, covered against old age. So they need to buy something with a long-term care chronic illness rider or a long-term care chronic illness policy. Okay. So now I want to figure out, to get to that bottom line, I want to figure out 3 points. First point, cost today. Options like traditional LTC. And then another option, which would be CI rider. So cost today, I would show them the Genworth site. So I'm just going to put Genworth here. Then we talk about future. And then I'll ask a question of, you know, what do you have? You don't want this to be so robotic that you're going to write everything out. So as you see, I put bullet points because as I do the presentation, the last thing you want to do is hold a piece of paper and say, yes, so today we're going to talk about long-term care. So when you do this, the idea is again to get something in your head, that trigger words that'll help you get to where you need to be. Okay. So options, LTC, we'll talk about cost once again. And, you know, changes. And there's a thing called partnership. I'll talk about that when I do this. So chronic illness, cost once again, because it'll be different. Benefits. And then, you know, really at the end, that's really all I need for that. Okay. Now you've got all of these that you would reiterate. So what I would say is future, cost. Here, I would say cost today. And then benefits. And I'll explain how this all ties in. Again, once again, they all lead to the what's in it for me. So we go to the top, and what I will do is I will tell you right now, I have a story for this, but then we'll talk about, you know, aging population, why discuss now. Again, apologies for the bad writing. So as you can see, we started with the end in mind, long-term care. What's the benefit for the client? We want to make sure they're covered against old age. We talk about some necessary things like cost today, what's going to cost in the future, blah, blah, blah. Then we talk about some of the options that they have, long-term care riders with life insurance. And then, you know, I start with a story. So this is typically about a 5 to 10-minute presentation that you would deliver to the client. Obviously, with a presentation that you could do, this could be the skeleton to a deck that you would do, you know, for PowerPoint. So you can use the same structure. You can even use it for a simple phone call. But the reason why you pick 3 options versus, you know, 1 is because people remember things in 3. So you could say this is the COO, cost, options, and options, or CLC, cost, long-term care, chronic. So you have some ways that you can develop that into the story as well. So it'll help people remember your facts and points too. So here's the story of how this would work out, just to give you an idea. So, you know, hi, my name is Philip Resch. You know, I've been in the financial services industry for 18 years. It's been a great ride, but I will share with you one of the main reasons why I got in this industry. And it revolves around my grandmother. So my grandmother, wonderful lady, I would always go to her house when I was a kid. Me and my brother, or me and my sister, I was always bookended with the older sister, the younger brother. So I spent most time at my grandparents' house. And we'd do things like we would do pizza night and stuff like that, where we would have a good time, and then we would sleep over. And my grandmother was just the nicest person, you know, just the sweet lady, grandfather as well. Um, and as time progressed, as we all know, people get older. And one of the things that happened was my grandfather, he actually started to have some cognitive issues. He eventually had so many cognitive issues, he had to go into a nursing home. He actually fell out of the bed and broke his hip. Now, what's interesting about that is study shows people get older, they actually don't fall and break their hip. It's because their bones become brittle and their bones break and they fall. So people think it's one thing, it's really the other. So as we get older, things like that happen. And so my grandfather ended up going into a nursing home, and right behind him, people didn't see, but my grandmother started emitting the same symptoms my grandfather had, shuffling her feet, and eventually needed to get into a wheelchair. Well, my grandfather passed. A lot of money was spent on my grandfather to, you know, take care of him in the nursing home. Unfortunately, my grandfather, 1, didn't believe in life insurance, but 2, he also did not believe in a dual pension. So he retired from Kodak, 40 years, and did not have, hold on one sec, my son keeps calling me and it's pissing me off. I'm in a meeting. Let's talk. Kids. So my grandfather didn't believe in life insurance, and he had a single life pension because he wanted the most money from that opportunity. And unfortunately for that is when he passed, the buck stopped. Now my grandmother, it was emitting some symptoms that she, like I said, uh, didn't have the ability to, you know, show until, because we were all focusing on my grandfather. Well, turns out she had to go to a nursing home as well. Well, the nursing home wasn't the same type of nursing home you would have for someone who was protected. It was Medicare. So we had to find out that my mom ended up taking care of her more than the nursing home did. My mom basically was treated like an employee versus a daughter. And it was very painful to watch because as my mom was trying to take care of her one night, my grandmother asked her to sing her a bedtime song. And my mom was so flustered, she said, just go to bed and slam the door, not knowing that those would be the last words she'd ever say to her mother. And so the reason why I do what I do is to help other people not run into those concerns. And where we talk about now an aging population, people don't think about things like that, the dynamic that'll change between loved ones, parents, and the kids because they haven't properly planned for what's to come. So my objective today is to talk about the opportunity where we can talk about what I call the old CLC, the cost of today or the cost of long-term care in general, the options like long-term care, or alternatives like a chronic illness rider attached to a life insurance policy. So if we talk about first the costs of today and in the future for things like long-term care, I would like to show you a website called genworth.com/cost of care. And on this site, we can factor in the location where you're at and the cost of today. A private room costs anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000. And then I know you're only 50, so when we talk about this, we talk about the future, that's going to bring it up to $15,000, $20,000 per month. So from that standpoint, what do you think your future will hold? And what do you have to protect yourself against those assets? Well, if I could talk to you about now that you know what's coming, if I could talk to you about some options, let's first talk about traditional long-term care. Now, traditional long-term care typically costs less than other solutions. Why is that? Because even though it's non-cancelable, that doesn't mean they can't raise the cost. And so the costs that you would see are today might not be the costs that you would see in the future. So there are fears and concerns that some changes down the road might not be in your fiscal purview. And the other concern that a lot of people have with traditional long-term care is that if you don't use it, you lose it. So from the standpoint of if you bought a long-term care policy today and you never used it, well, you don't get anything from it. No cash growth, no death benefit. If you want to stop it, you can stop it, but you're not going to get anything back from it. The one thing long-term care does give you is this thing called partnership, though. So if you, for example, say, bought a $300,000 bucket of long-term care and you used it all, well, then you would fall back and have to go on Medicaid. But let's say you have $300,000 sitting in the bank. Normally, to get on Medicaid, you have to spend down your assets. So you have about $1,000 to your name and a car and a home, which sounds kind of ridiculous because if you have a car or a home and you only have $1,000 to your name, it's pretty hard to maintain those. But those are the rules. So that if you bought a policy that had a partnership qualification, it would shield against government spend down in Medicaid. So that is one perk of a traditional long-term care. It has that partnership feature to it. And now that we talked about the option of long-term care, I want to get to you about the option of chronic illness riders or long-term care benefits. Now, the insurance industry has gone above and beyond for opportunities when it comes to things like long-term care or hybrid long-term care opportunities. Now, the cost is a little higher than your traditional long-term care. However, that's the initial cost. It's not the final cost. Because once again, the carrier with long-term care can raise those premiums. Typically with life insurance, it's fixed. Now, some of the benefits of this, the opportunity is you get cash in hand. You have the opportunity to exit strategy if you want to, you feel you don't need it anymore. And if you never use it, you don't lose it because guess what? There's a death benefit attached to it. So your loved ones can still have some type of opportunity even if you don't use it. So we've talked about three things. We've talked about the future costs. Again, you're looking at $15,000 for a room per month. We talked about some of the costs and benefits of long-term care, being that it's more cost efficient today, potentially. But we talked really about the third option, the chronic illness rider with the benefits. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Client, what's in it for you? You have a good nest egg buildup. You have a good retirement set and ready to roll. Do you feel that if we repositioned a portion of those assets to protect against the erosion of your nest egg that's built up for you or your wife, because, sir, let's be honest, most men die first, and we leave our wives with the bag to fend for themselves, and that's not fair to them. So if we could look at a structure of, let's say, $10,000 benefit per month, would you be interested in looking at that? And when you go through that process, like I say, I just went through quick and dirty how you can run through something like this. You can use this with LIRPs, life insurance retirement plans. You can use this with estate planning. You can use this with business owners, buy-sell agreements, executive bonuses. You could use this with your spouse if you want to get a puppy or whatever. Like, you could do different things or different opportunities just by using the same format or formula. And once again, the idea is you start with the end in mind and you work your way up till eventually you get to the storyboard or how you're going to put it all together. And so I know I said a lot. It's 4:30, and I was going to make this quick because there isn't too much content to it. But if you can start using that to take your ideas, I'm more of an off-the-cuff person. I usually think quick and try and build something from that standpoint. But if you can get your thoughts down into a formatted position, whether you're doing call scripts, because you can do this with call scripts too, and you can do this with face-to-face, it can help you build your elevator pitch as well. These are the kind of things that'll take you to the next level. It's one thing to just meet someone and get an opportunity off a whim. It's another thing to be ready, poised, and have something down that you've already built in your Rolodex. And you can create tons of these presentations and deliver them when you think you're ready to. If you ever want to role play with me, feel free to use my appointment link. We can always set up an hour-long Zoom, phone call, whatever. Or I will also be in Dallas the 8th to the 15th. Got that little conference that I'm doing. We got about 300, 400 people registered, so it's going to be a good time, and I can't wait to do it. So, but if you're in Dallas and you want to meet, I'll be there between the 8th and the 15th, specifically for that opportunity to connect. And, I don't see any questions in the Q&A section, so I'm assuming everyone's jaw has just dropped with this type of information. But I'll give it one last second for any Q&A. And once again, tgcconference.com. Looking forward to the opportunity to see everybody there, mind share, and provide value to you guys. This is all for you. I've told plenty of people that I don't want to be the star. I want to be the Andy Reid and everyone else be the Patrick Mahomes. So the idea is for you to grow, for you to get the things that you need to do to help your community. So look forward to seeing you there. I know, Pasco, you got your hand raised. If you could, I'm not putting anyone on voice, so if you want to just throw it in the chat real quick, that'd be great. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea is iron sharpens iron. I've told everybody that depending on the hustle that you want, I'll match it. So if I have time free, then I am going to make that time for you. So anyone who's received an email from me, which you all have from my newsletter, it says chat's not disabled, use the Q&A. But sorry. But what I say is that if anyone wants that extra time, you want to run through questions, case design. The difference between me and a major IMO or three-letter acronyms or things like that is that I want you to grow. I want you to build your reputation in your community. I want you to have the opportunity to make a ton of money doing it because this is a great industry. So whatever I can do to help you take that next step, I am here for you. So don't see any other questions. And my son is freaking out because he says he left his jersey at home for a lacrosse game. So with that, I will say thank you guys. Look forward to seeing you very, very soon. And if you need me, just give me a holler, okay? Thanks so much.